Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 68 of the About to Break podcast, and this is part one of a two-part series with my buddy Chipper Lowell. We made a little video. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out on our Facebook or Instagram. I made a little video kind of explaining my love for Chipper and how long we've been trying to do this podcast. We've talked about this for well over a year, and our travel schedules have just not lined up, and finally we sat down. It was so good, and we had so much to talk about that we're splitting it into two different shows. Before we get started, I do want to give a big shout out to our friends at Cat Beach Music who provide the tunes for the podcast here. Our friends Bobby and Jen Hartree have curated and created some of the best music available today for production. If you are in the TV or film industry, if you are a performing artist, and you're looking for the perfect vibe for your next project, please go check them out. They got a brand new website. It's catbeachmusic.com, and it's so killer. And they're just constantly cranking out new tunes. I'm just obsessed with some of this new stuff that they've got coming out. So go check it out, catbeachmusic.com. So good. Thank you again to Cat Beach for letting us feature their music here on the program. Speaking of music, I just finished a run at the Magic Castle, and one of the biggest questions I get asked after performances is how do I control my music for the show? It's great if you're in a theater and you've got a dependable sound guy that you travel with. That's awesome. For me, I travel a lot of one-nighter events, and as a performing artist, I need to make sure that my sound cues work every single time. And I've discovered something that I wanted to share with you guys. It's called Audio Ape. It is a killer remote triggering system that you can discreetly and accurately cue your music every single time. So if you're a performing artist that uses music in your show, whether you're a vocalist that uses backing tracks or you're a magician like myself who uses, I think I'm using like 20 plus cues in a single show now. This thing is just a lifesaver. So go check it out. It is definitely an investment, but it is probably the best investment I've made in my show. And I love it so much, I reached out to Charles over at Audio Ape, asked him if we could get a promo code set up for you guys. So if you go to abouttobreakpodcast.com/control, there's a promo code there that will let you guys get a free case when you order. And I've also put a little video on there that shows you just what Audio Ape is and what it can do for your show. So go check that out. That's on our abouttobreakpodcast.com/control. I've got a few live shows coming up. Let's see, April 18th and 25th, I'll be at Scott Neary's Booby Trap trying out some new stuff. And then Chipper and I talk about this crazy idea I had to do a new material show where I invite other performers in LA who are all workers, who are doing great stuff, to come out and try out new material. And I got so excited talking to Chipper about it that I just decided we're going to do it. So our next Clubhouse show on April 24th is going to be a new material show. If you want to come see some of LA's best performers doing some of their newest stuff, that's going to be April 24th. May 16th, I'll be in the ATL. I'm performing in Atlanta at Smith's Old Bar. Tickets and information for all of those events are available at taylorhughes.com/live. And if you make it to any of those shows, please come say hey. I would love to meet you in person. All right, let's get into the show. There's not a word that I can use to describe my overwhelming enthusiasm to share this conversation, and actually next week's conversation as well, with you. I've been just such a huge fan of Chipper as a performer throughout the years. It's a great thing when you love somebody for their work and then you meet them as a person and you love them even more. Chipper is just hands down one of the nicest guys in this business, and his experience is unbelievable. He shares so much on this podcast that I know is going to help you in your everyday life and spur creativity and challenge you in what you do. He's just the best. He's performed on all 5 seasons of the television show Masters of Illusion. This week, he's headlining the Magic Castle in Hollywood, and he tours all across the country, both with his own show and with Masters of Illusion Live. You can find out more about Chipper by going to his website, thechipperexperience.com, or by clicking on the show notes here, and we've got a link directly to his site. So go check out Chipper, but right now, we've got him here on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation, part 1, with the incredible Chipper Lowell.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hey everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host Taylor Hughes, and I can't believe it's happened. We're here. We're in the shed quarters with Chipper Lowell.
Shed quarters.
This is the world shed quarters.
I love
Do you
that.
like it, or
I
is
love
it
that.
lame? Should I change it?
No, that was Katie's, right?
That was
term.
Katie's.
See?
Yeah.
I listened to the
You
podcast.
listened to it.
Holy crap.
You know, it's funny. I put these out every week, and I always wonder if anyone listens to it. I mean, I can see, I see like numbers of how many downloads, but it's like, are friends just downloading it to be kind and like, I'll support him with a, I don't have to listen to it. I'll just get it on auto download.
Just out of kindness.
Just out of kindness. Just out of pure.
Yeah, I press play and then walk out of the room.
yeah. If you don't play it, it doesn't count. So he's got to get the analytics through iTunes.
So are we on the air now?
We are. This is
official?
it. This is how we're off to a great start, Chipper.
Not really. I will tell you. So you've been doing this how many episodes? Like a lot, right?
This will. I think if my count is right, this episode they're listening to will be episode 68.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of episodes.
And I only started listening to it just like a couple weeks ago. And it wasn't out of not wanting to. It was just that thing of being so busy.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally I'm in my car and I'm like, okay, I've listened to all my other podcasts.
Right.
So what's at the bottom of the barrel? And I was like, okay, let's try this. And to be honest, I absolutely loved it. So I think I've listened to about at least 10 or 15 of them
Oh
now.
my goodness.
And
I'm sorry.
It's great. No. And I'm sorry that we weren't able to do this sooner, but it's kind of nice that now you're in your groove, and I'm excited to be here.
All those other episodes were just practice for this conversation.
Wow. That's such a lie.
I think it's funny because, I'm trying to think back to, we were in Houston, was it, for an event?
Houston, yes. Last January.
So it was last January. So
last year, yeah.
I had just started this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think back to that moment because that conversation that you and I had after the gig was over till like how late in the morning?
Okay, so, and you know what? Here's the thing. I loved that conversation. And there were two parts to it.
Yeah.
First of all, it was the night before the gig.
Oh, that's
where
right.
we wound up talking till like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Which is a smart move, right?
Really dumb move before a gigantic corporate gig, which you're on stage and I'm directing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and it was a fascinating conversation because we really got into just our lives and philosophical and career and everything. And it was just one of my favorite conversations. And then after it was done, we then got into another one that lasted all the way up till we had to get on airplanes and go back. But yeah, I loved it.
Oh, man.
So right after that is when you started this.
Yeah, and I started this podcast because I was thinking, for me, like at this point in my life when I'm just trying to figure out what am I doing and is this really what I want to do and how do I do it in a way that keeps me sane? And it was conversations like the one that you and I had that I went, this is oxygen. Like if I have a conversation like this and we connect and I feel like I'm not the only one, then I can make it, another month of doing this crazy on the road nonsense.
That conversation was only worth a month of inspiration. So there was an expiration date on it.
Yeah, so it's like we got to put these out every week.
Every week. Oh, my God. It's something that I'm reminded of, and then I forget, and then I'm reminded of again, because I've been in the business for many years. And, we work alone for a good 80, 90% of our gigs.
Yeah.
We don't have someone to look over the cubicle next to us to say, oh my God, let's talk about the boss today at lunch.
Right.
We don't get that.
Right.
And so it's very inspiring and it brings you down to earth again to be able to talk to someone that understands that no one understands this business.
Oh yeah.
My entire neighborhood that we live in thinks we're the crazy people because they see me looks like I'm goofing off all day long if I'm home.
Oh, like resetting prop cases or building stuff.
Then they have the 9 to 5 type format.
Right.
And I've literally gone over to, share a beer on a porch with a neighbor and there's nothing to talk about. And it's just, to me, it's the funniest thing. Like I start giggling because they just don't get it. They think that I'm flying off to places for fun.
Oh, yeah.
It must be really tough. You're going to Vegas and then New York and then it's like, it is tough.
It's not vacation.
It's not.
First of all, I'm flying Southwest.
or the one time I flew Spirit,
Oh my goodness.
which is
It's
just it's an hour and a half right there.
Let's just do a non-sponsorship of Spirit Airlines right now. This can be us crapping on Spirit Airlines. And
Oh my God. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
If they offered me a job to
Yeah.
go work a Spirit corporate event, I would say yes. But
they're the worst place ever. Who books that?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, just unbelievable. And you know what? To me, it's the epitome of how not to do business.
Yeah.
Can you imagine walking in and doing the same thing Spirit does with your clients where you say, yeah, it's going to be this much and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they go, great. The
$13
contracts,
flight. Great.
the contracts have been signed. And
Yeah.
then you say, oh, did you want me to actually appear at your event? That'll be an extra, $6,000.
Right.
Did you want me to use the microphone?
Right.
Because that'll be another,
Everything's an upsell.
everything's an upsell. You're
Yeah.
scared to pee and poop on the flight because
Right.
you're like, what's that going to be?
Right.
A little receipt comes out when you flush the toilet. That was 3 flushes.
It's like that scene. Did you ever see that party scene in the movie PCU? Did you ever see that movie?
No.
Oh, hilarious movie.
Yeah.
But they're doing a party. They're trying to raise money. And the girl's standing outside the bathroom with a roll of toilet paper and going, number 1 or number 2? And the guy's like, she's like, number 1 or he's like, throws up a 2. She's like, $4. She pulls off a little bit of paper and hands it to him.
That is the epitome of Spirit Airlines.
Yeah.
Did you want a flight with an actual pilot?
Right.
Did you want the airplane to to leave the actual tarmac?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I go into like a travel zone, I've realized. And
yeah.
I've realized because of this, I'm great at traveling by myself. But if I ever have a friend or Katie with me, I realize
Yes.
I'm not that great to travel with because I'm like, this is just war. Like
It is absolute war. It is war on how to get on the plane. It is war on how to get your carry-on into a compartment. It
Yeah.
is war about, we have the, at least for me, I have the little travel scale,
oh yeah.
and and all of my bags are 49.5
Yes.
pounds. And I mean, to the letter,
Yeah.
because I'm not about to spend any money at any,
Right. Yeah.
And there's tricks. There's so many little,
There's so many tricks.
so many little tricks.
Do we want to share any of the tricks?
Nope.
Or do I thought, for a long time, I thought I got away for a long time with a trick. And I'll tell the trick now because I will never do it again.
Yeah.
I was traveling with a show that had a lot of gear.
Yes.
And I was like, stuff was too long for the, a suitcase can be 62 linear inches and no more than 50 pounds. And finally I realized like, oh my gosh, the rules for a golf club case are 70 pounds and it's much bigger and longer.
Right.
Right. So I started traveling with a golf club case and just loading it with everything but golf clubs until the one day they found out that there weren't golf clubs in it. I was flying American and they charged me like $360.
And it was because they
overages.
x-rayed it and someone
It's because it was one of those
did you
airports.
feel guilty and finally break?
No, sometimes they say, okay, you check in and then they're like, take it over here. And you have to take it to the TSA x-ray thing.
Right.
And they're like, please wait here. And they put it through. And then they stopped me and brought me back to the counter and were like, you're only allowed to ship golf clubs in this. And I had a big fight with them. And it got to the point where I was going to miss my connection and miss my show. And I was like, screw it.
Pay the money.
Pay it. And never bring this case
Right.
again.
But you got away with it for a
For
while.
a long time. I saved a lot of money for a long time.
There's the story of Jay Leno early in his career when he wasn't well known, but he was flying all over the place.
Yeah.
And he would bring a cane with him. And so he would bring the cane. He would hobble on the first just to be able to know that he got on the flight.
Yeah.
And didn't have to wait. And
So he could pre-board?
So you could pre-board. And I keep threatening to my own self of just get a cane.
Just get a cane.
Get a collapsible folding cane. And, And I couldn't do it. I know I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
Oh, I have to. This is really when I
I'm
need.
too honest. I'm way too
No,
honest.
it's good,
for
right?
my own good.
Well, because you learn the tricks that you're comfortable with, but you also learn the ones that you know
That you're not. Yeah. Like I have never committed murder.
Right. Many
because
times
I
wanted
feel it's wrong. And I know
Right.
it's a stand I'm taking.
You just got to draw your own lines. Otherwise, people will draw them for you.
However, murder's okay if you can get away with it. But
Is
other
that-
than that,
This is okay. This is when I say
kids, not okay. Just want to say that because watch this comes and haunts me like years later.
Right. They're gonna just
You
edit
said-
it. It'll be you'll be running for city council when you're like 80, and they're gonna be.
Oh, that will never happen. That to me is just
The worst.
Want to talk about hell on earth?
Oh yeah.
Being a politician
Oh my gosh.
and being okay with that system.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Okay, so this is the point where I'll be editing the podcast and I'll think, why did I say this?
That's right.
But I'm going to say it. Every time, talk about murder being wrong. Here's what's awful. Murder is wrong.
Okay, how many minutes are we in?
we're only we're 11 minutes in and we've gotten to murder.
Awesome.
That's okay. What is the Karen's show that is like the best podcast ever? My Favorite Murder. Have you heard this?
I have not seen that.
Oh my gosh.
Or seen it.
If you like true crime and are very desensitized, you'll love it, like me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but here's the deal that I always see when on the news there was like a body was found here, and it's like some guy goes through this elaborate murder and then just botches the disposal. Like, I think murder's awful, but if you're gonna do it, like, yeah. See, I told y'all we'll edit this out. But I was thinking, like, it's like a very shallow grave. It's like, come on, buddy, like, you've gone this far.
So what you're saying is
dig a little
there was
deeper.
no follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one point you really need to commit.
Well,
once you've committed, you need to.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I grew up on watching Columbo.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Agatha Christie mysteries.
Yeah.
I love Perot mysteries. I love
totally.
all of that. And those are fascinating to me. But, I'm always fascinated by the one thing they forgot, the one little detail,
Right.
the one thing where they went just too far.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think it's about the murder. I think for me, it's more, actually, I think I got more into those because of the writing.
Oh, yeah.
And again, as weird as this sounds, you have to follow through. But not about murder, but I'm thinking about your own gig and your own shows and your own career and everything. And so many people do just enough.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a weird way to get to this, but
no, it's great. Let's do it.
But oh my God, here's the word I hate: fine.
Oh, no.
It's fine.
No, it's not fine.
So
not fine.
how's the room? Yeah, it's okay.
No,
it's fine. Yeah, and I just like, as if we can live forever. We only have one opportunity.
Right.
Let's not go with fine.
Well, and it's
anything. And
then you have performers who say it's fine, and then you have bookers who say it's fine, and it's like, you've spent so much money to put on this event, to bring me out, and then there's no stage or lights, or there's a dance floor, or there's 3 rooms that we want you to perform in this room for the people in these 3 rooms.
Yeah, and then you have to be able to get to a point where you can say no to those gigs.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, early on I said yes to everything, which I'm sure we all do.
Right.
Because we just want the gig. We want the gig. We want the gig. And we always think the old adage, which is the dumbest thing in the world, customer is always right.
Yeah.
No, customer is uninformed.
Right.
And that's what you have to think of. They're not putting
these events on every day.
That's right.
We are. Yeah.
So they're not always right. They're literally uninformed. You are the expert. Mm-hmm. You are not just a performer. You're not just a magician.
Right.
You should be the one to say, you're paying me this amount of money. It's a huge amount of money.
Right.
I want you to use my experience in the last 20, 30 years of doing these.
Yep.
And yes, there's going to be little, possible friction if they don't know in the beginning.
Right.
I'm really good about explaining it to them without them realizing I'm explaining it to them.
Right.
And then everything changes.
What does that look like? Explaining it. Well, I mean, for a performer who's sitting there going, okay, how do you explain it to him without it looking like you're
rule number 1, don't roll your eyes. Rule number 2, don't go. No, I always actually, because my background is from Groundlings.
Yeah.
Which is, for those that don't know, Groundlings Theater in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
It's where everybody from Saturday Night Live and, Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig and others came out of. And to me, it's always yes and. And now the client doesn't know that they're being yes and.
Oh, yeah.
But you make it like it's their idea.
So you agree with them, and then you add in.
So, for instance, the proverbial dance floor in the front of the stage, right? We all deal with that.
Yeah.
It's usually the length of a football field, and in order to get the audience closer to you, they put tables to the extreme right and extreme left of the stage. Right. That's the dumbest thing in the world.
And 90% of the time, there will be no dancing.
That's
like
right.
they're not planning to dance.
They're not. They're not. No. No one. All their people are staying at is for the raffle, and then they leave.
Yes.
So that was the other thing. It's always
Keep the raffle.
The
at
raffle
the end,
is at
after
the end.
show.
It's after my show. It's not before the show. But for instance, there's the dance floor.
Yeah.
So I would come in and say, "Oh wow, you guys got everything. That's great. You got the stage, you got the dance floor, you got the chairs. That's awesome. So when it's time for the show, do you want to tell them beforehand that they're going to move their chairs to the dance floor, or do you want me to do it?" And so I'm presenting it as these options and not a negative.
Right.
The positive is that there's a dance floor to bring the chairs to.
Yes.
Now in my head, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Right.
Excuse my language, but
no,
that's really what goes through my head.
The initial thought that everyone has when they see it.
And this is where acting comes in.
Right.
And you smile and you roll with it. And the truth is, I really can't get mad unless they're obstinate.
Yep.
But I can't be upset because it's the same as an audience. They don't know until they're told what the best scenario is. Right. And like you said, they've never done this before.
Right.
Very often, as someone has been put on a planning committee.
Yep.
And all they know is we got to rent a room.
Yep.
We have to have a stage. We have to, and it literally is somebody else saying to them, well, what about audio? What about sound? Oh, and then you learn all the little tricks that go along with it. If you say to them that you need a microphone, you also have to say it can't be the one on the podium.
Right.
Which happens all the time.
The gooseneck.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You have to explain in detail things like, if there is a podium for speakers beforehand, that has to be removable.
Yes.
If there is a stage, how much stage space do I have? And that does not include a table for awards,
right?
A table for gifts, a table for Christmas, for special drawings and raffles.
The DJ can't set up on the stage.
Can't set up on the stage. The band can't set up on the stage.
Yep.
All these things because they don't know.
No.
They're not trying. They're really not trying to hurt you.
Right.
And that's what people don't get. Same with hecklers. 99% of hecklers are not there to make a bad show. They actually think they're helping.
They think that's part of it.
So you can't like just go in and destroy them.
Right.
Or have that attitude because the truth is they just don't know. They don't know.
I keep saying I should get a what would Chipper do bracelet because since we've had several conversations along these lines when I would be like, Chipper, what do you do in this situation?
Yeah.
But literally 3 nights ago I was at an event in Scottsdale, very nice event, banquet set up, I come out and this is like the kickoff to a large conference.
Yeah.
They've got a beautiful set. They've got a podium. It's the hotel podium that weighs like 100 pounds. It's all wired up with mics. And then
taped, right?
Yeah, everything's gaff taped.
Taped down.
And then they've built a facade around that to match their set that probably weighs another 50 pounds. It's right in front of the stage. The stage is like one of those long stages that's not deep enough, like we talked about in the rider.
Right.
And I just was like, all right, I'm gonna do what Chipper would do. And I'm very kind, talked with them, explained to them what was needed. At any given point, I'm going to have 4 or 5 people on this stage. This is going to be a safety hazard. So before I come up, we're going to need to figure out a way to move this podium.
Yes.
And here are the options. If the person who's doing the few announcements beforehand doesn't need the podium, we can strike it now and it's a clear stage. But if they think they need the podium, that's fine.
Yeah.
But before I step on the stage, the podium needs to be removed.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you do that. Because
it makes it so much better. So
much better. And here's the thing. People do not remember that part at the end of the evening. All they remember is how great the show was.
Right.
That's all they remember. I mean, I've told you these stories before, but just a couple of years ago, I did a New Year's Eve where the ballroom was, I'm not kidding, a football field. And I come in, and in the center of this room, on one side of the long walls is a stage, beautiful big stage. And I went, that's great. And they go, oh, that's not your stage. I go, excuse me?
Yeah.
They said, yeah, that's for the band. I said, well, where's my stage? And they go, okay, see the corner all the way down there? See, we have a stage for you there. I go,
it's like a little riser?
No, I mean, they had a stage, but it was in the far end corner of this room where
not
tables
lit.
are going to be all throughout. And I said, okay, so I'm sorry, explain the evening then. And they said, well, we're going to have you coming on at 8:00.
Yeah.
And you're going to do your show from 8 to 8:45.
Yeah.
Then there's 15 minutes. And at 9:00,
Yeah.
we're going to have the dueling pianos. I go, where are they? They're on the opposite side of this room on another stage. And I said, okay, but here's the thing, you need to get the people are spread out. There's this entire room.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of the back corner opposite of where my stage was. The picture looks like a football field. It's hilarious. And immediately I knew that the show was just going to bomb.
Oh, yeah.
It's just going to bomb because
totally.
the people are literally 50 to 200 feet, yards, miles away. So I said to them, great. I said, this is great.
Yes.
And they said, yes, exactly. And the guy had an attitude.
Oh, no.
And so I knew that I had to do this stealth move.
Right.
So what I did was everybody is at their tables. It's big New Year's Eve. That big stage was for the band that was going to kick off the music, the dancing, and the countdown at midnight.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
So they have a nice package of all these different events that are going on. So as everybody came in and got their seats, I went to the opposite end of this room and talked to each individual table. And I said, hey guys, welcome to the event. We're so glad that you're here. You're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. Let me explain what's going on. You guys have the perfect seats for dueling pianos, which will be taking place later in the evening. However, at the beginning, we have an hysterical comedy magic show that's taking place on can you see all the way down there? Well, the reason we're going, do you hear me?
Yeah.
This is me now saying we, not me. I said, so we are going to table to let you know when the time is to take your chairs and bring them over to that side of the room.
Yeah.
And you can line up among the tables there. And then on that portion of the dance floor on that side. Oh, got it. No one said no.
Yeah.
No one said not going to do it. They thought that was what their evening was supposed to be.
The program. Yeah.
I did not tell the event planner that because he would have said no.
Right.
Because it wouldn't have looked nice.
Right.
Sure enough, I go, ladies and gentlemen, we're 15 minutes away from showtime. You know what to do. And hundreds of people, like a herd, are taking their chairs and rolling them. And the event planner is looking around, not at me, because he doesn't know that I've gone table to table. He's like, what is going on? He can't stop this.
Yeah.
They all come over. I have a close-knit group now of like 600, 700 people, all within the confines of 1/3 of the room.
Fantastic.
Show goes great. Standing ovation.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you so much. And as you know, we've got dueling pianos coming up, so you know what to do. And now the people from my side take their chairs and go over, and the people that were the other side bring their chairs back to their original tables. Wow. And they all got it. Yeah. And now the dueling piano guys come up to me afterwards to go, oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Because now they have a great show.
Right. Because probably during your show, they're like, what are we going to do?
Oh, yeah, because suddenly there's no one in front of their stage. In front of them. But you are an event planner. Yeah. You are not just this guy on stage. And I think ego is going to just ruin you by going, hey, no, this is not what I said. Right. You got to work with it. You got to roll with it. They aren't going to remember any of that once the show's done. They're only going to remember, oh my gosh, everyone had a great time. We laughed. It was so memorable. Yep. There's moments that they remember and come up to you afterwards and go, oh my God, I can't believe you got the vice president up and you got this. And they're just not going to remember all the little things in the beginning where you are. Here's another tip. A band is sharing your stage. Yeah. I get there early. Yep. And I put a white line down the middle of the stage.
Like a tape line? Or?
A tape line. Yeah. And when the band comes in, I say, hey, guys, it's so great. I understand we'll be sharing the stage. And the drum kit can go behind the white line. Everything in front of that white line needs to be pulled back. To be able to be pulled back. So you guys can have your instruments, your monitors, your mic stands, everything in the front for your portion. But when it's time for the show, it gets pushed back behind that line. And 100% of the time, the band goes, great. And I know I always have space for my show.
That's so good.
And that is before I'm on. If I'm on before them, if I'm on after them. Yeah. As opposed to getting there and going, oh, guys, well, I need space. I just put it down. I just put down the lines already. Now, they don't know that's my tape.
Right.
They just know that for the event, that's what...
This is the plan for the event.
Yeah.
Right.
And it works great.
It's so good that you do this in a way that's kind, but that's unapologetic about what you need. And I feel like so many performers that I've worked with are so scared. It's like you already got the gig, but if you don't nail it tonight, you're not going to get booked back.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're going to cancel you in the next 5 minutes because you needed to put a tape line down. You know what I'm saying?
I very often state, sometimes even in contracts, if I know there might be issues, where I say, you are paying me not only for a terrific show, but for a memorable experience for your group, using the last 20 plus years of me doing corporate events.
Right.
I want them to know that my experience is there, not just for the show itself, but to make sure the room is right, the lighting is right, the audio is right, the chairs are right, the tables are right. All of that. I mean, even you can suck in a room that you shouldn't suck at if the tables are 12 feet away from the stage. You know, there should not be a moat there, but they think it looks nice. And I'm like, no, guys.
And there's no stairs access to, you have to go behind the stage for stairs. And
that's a whole nother thing.
Last night, I did a show last night, and the more corporate events I've been doing, I do less of like smaller banquet rooms, or even like last night was at Maggiano's at South Coast Plaza in this little banquet room. 50 people. And it was so weird because I've gotten more specific about what I need. I knew in this little room, it's like, it's going to be what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I asked for a microphone. I asked about the setup. I walked in, tables are everywhere. There's this little spot for me to stand. And the microphone that they had didn't work.
Right.
And I had my own mic and they had no way for me to patch it in.
Right.
And I finally was like, I can do this, but it's not going to be the show I planned. You know, and it went great, and they had fun, but I left there going, Katie asked me last night when I got home, she's like, how was it? I was like, it was a good show, and they were pleased, but it wasn't the show that they could have had. You know, I had all these other things that I was going to do that I couldn't do. Yeah.
And we still, I mean, that still comes up. So, I mean, I don't want to seem like all my shows, there's still those situations you just can't. You can't fix stupid.
Like, oh, I'm not going to do the floating piano.
But here's the thing that I think a lot of performers don't understand. You have people that work at the hotels that are told, listen, the next group in Salon B, it's 500 people. And in their heads, they go, okay, set up 500 chairs. The people setting up the chairs know nothing about event planning. They only know to bring 500 chairs. We just had this with my show at one of the universities where they're setting up the room. And when I got there, I'm the one moving the chairs, in which then they suddenly went, oh, and they started moving the chairs because I knew it wasn't going to be a good show if I didn't move the chairs. In their eyes, it's great. We have everything set up. But
there's enough room for everybody to eat chicken.
But it's not optimal. And that's the thing. I can't tell you the countless amount of times early in my career where I go, oh, okay, sure. Because I didn't want to upset anybody. And then after a while you go, no, I have something to offer these people, not just the show, but to make it the best, you know? And we are everything. This is the thing about being in this business. We have to know everything about sound. We have to know everything about video. Audio, lighting.
Got to be a moving company.
I mean, and then also, as the show goes on, what works within the show and what should you ditch immediately and jump to another routine? And people don't do that because they go, this is my set show. Okay, so.
Well, because I've seen the same thing happen, whether you're a magician or a comedian or a juggler or a keynote speaker. I've seen keynotes that have their thing planned, and if it's not working for that group, they're still going to do it. And it's like, scrap it all. And do this. Okay, so.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's live entertainment. It's live. You are in the moment live. And again, this all goes back to improv and also the fact that, you know, we'll get into it later about my career because it's, I've been second generation with live performance. But I lost my train of thought on that.
you were talking about changing up the show, taking out immediately what needs to be taken out.
I wound up being an opening act for a very short couple of shows for Barry Manilow of all people.
Yeah,
way back when, and I kind of rolled my eyes, secretly, like I like all his music.
Yeah,
but it's great. But this is something that he taught me, which I just, I was really young. I was in my early 20s, and I watched him on stage. He is not just Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
He is his own band leader, arranger, orchestrator, whereas other people would go up and they sing songs, Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And they turn to the guy that's at the piano that's really leading the band.
Right.
And they have their set list. Barry Manilow would do his show and open with a song. And as that song's happening and he's at the piano and he's got a giant 3-ring binder on the top of his piano of all of his arrangements and songs, as does everybody else. If he feels the audience hasn't been grabbed by that first song, during the song, off mic, he will then talk to the band and say, guys, we're going into this other number, which is another high energy number.
Yep.
Because he felt he hadn't got them yet.
Yep.
And if he felt he got them, he would turn and go, oh yeah, they're golden. Let's go in with our regular routine.
Yep.
He was already pitching the show with the highs and lows and the dynamics, depending on what the audience was feeling.
Yeah.
And that for me was so valuable.
Oh yeah.
Because there are times that I will start a show and go, oh yeah, they're not there yet.
Yep.
So what do? I'm going to immediately go into a piece that brings an audience member up.
Yep.
Because now they can't help but be connected, because now they know so-and-so's up on stage.
Yep.
They can't just cross their hands and look the other direction. There's somebody they know that's up on stage.
Right. If they haven't connected with you yet, they already have a connection with this person.
That's right. And now they'll connect through that person, and suddenly the walls come down and everything feels fine. But you got to on the middle. And then I've done that with routines where this routine will be killer if it's only 5 minutes long, whereas the routine normally is 10 minutes long.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I go, I'm going to cut out my seconds and thirds on jokes. Because I really have to hammer this down. This is like full throttle, push.
Right.
And then the other ones where you go, okay, I caught this wave and I can just ride it.
Yeah. And you've got 4 or 5 other routines planned and you're like, I'll just do this for the rest of my time because we're there. Like it's viewing your material as a toolkit. To give the audience the experience that they need that night.
That's a perfect way of explaining it. It is a toolkit. It is not, but this is my show, but this is my routine. No, there are very often, I would say like 90% of the time now, especially if I do my solo shows when I'm touring with performing arts centers.
Yeah.
I get done with a show and it's a 2-hour show with an intermission.
Right.
But I get done and the crew comes up to me and they go, you didn't do this and this and this. And I go, because it was so much fun with the ad libs and improv. And that's what I want. I want it to be so organic. And the minute that it's not, I can have a really good show, but if it doesn't feel organic, audiences enjoyed it, but I feel like, whatever.
I want to hit on this because this is huge with your improv background with Groundlings and just with every time I've seen you perform. I've seen you countless times. I've never seen the same show twice. Even if I've seen the same routines from one show to the next, I've never seen the same show twice because it is improvised and it is.
I try.
Every audience. No, it's true. I for a long time struggled with, it was like, I don't know, the comedy and magic thing, like some guys like, oh, I do a joke, comedy and magic. Right. And it's like, this is not a comedy show. When I go see you, it's like, there's improv, it's real theater, you've got crazy cool props you've designed. But if an audience member brings something up, you will mine that for everything that's there.
Oh yeah.
And it's beautiful. Oh, it makes it so much funner because the audience goes, this is never going to happen again. This was for us.
It's twofold. One is it's fun for me because of the improv.
Right.
And I want to have fun on stage. And if I'm having fun, the audience has fun.
Yeah.
And if I'm not having fun, then I have to act.
Like you're having fun.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You're acting like you're having fun.
Right.
And then the audience thinks, oh, that it was great because they don't know any better.
That's a weird thing in entertainment is that you get hired to have a good time at Thursday at 7:00. Like you are going to be a real fun, lighthearted, happy-go-lucky guy at this specific time.
Sure. and with everything that's human that happens right before that. I have so many stories, and we all have stories of just before you go on stage, you get awful news or tragic news, or you're not feeling well and you have 106 temperature, and you're like, I have to psych myself out to tell my body, nope, you're not sick. And then you get on stage and you do great. And the minute your body knows you're done with the show, suddenly you have 106 temperature again and you fall down. We're put in sometimes unbelievable situations like that. I was opening a show at the Venetian in Vegas, and 2 hours before that show opened was when Lisa called me and said, well, we just got the diagnosis. Ethan is on the autism spectrum. And,
2 hours before.
2 hours before, I'm opening a show at the Venetian of 800 to 1,200 people a night, 2 shows a night, 7 days a week. And I quite literally went, okay, thank you, honey. Yeah. I love you. I'll talk to you in a bit. I'm going to go open a show. Yeah. And it was the weirdest. And I was in this funk that I had to fool myself for almost 2 weeks. Of just zeroing in on the show. Just to get through it before I could finally start processing. And then Lisa and I, talking and rolling our sleeves up and saying, okay, what are we going to do in regards to Ethan and autism and things like that? Right. But this is what we get handed. Everyone, it's not just me. We all get those things of, your grandparents passed away, something happened. Right. Things like that. And we have to fake it. We have to go out on stage and fake it. And so then it becomes a weird acting exercise of learning to compartmentalize, learning to get into the zone of being the show and the professional you are, living for that show, knowing that those problems are still going to exist an hour later or 2 hours later. And then go deal with them. And the sad part for us is we then go deal with them as we head back to our hotel room by ourselves. And then go, And thankfully, if we have people like our wives or good friends or family that we can talk to, that's a blessing. But it is weird. And you don't want to, you can't bring that stuff up onto the stage. No. You can talk about things pertinent to the event. Right. I've done things where it's a charity event and I've, at the end of my show said, listen, I'm so glad to be here. And if I can add one more story about this, and maybe it's an event dealing with autism, maybe it's not a woe is me and a thing for applause. It's to say, listen,
we're all in this together.
We're all in this together. We're all human. Things like this affect all of us, including even people like me. Right. And so I appreciate our time together. And I'm very sincere about it. I'm not going to say it if I'm going to fake that. Right. Because I can't fake that at all. And there's been times when, I've just broken down in tears. Yeah. Because it affects us. But that's the thing. We have to be accessible to that emotion. And then learn how to work around it if you're in the professional mode where it doesn't pertain to the situation.
It's funny. We don't have to stay long on this. I don't want to take us off track, but this reminds me, I used to be a youth pastor. Yes. In my former days. But it was very similar in some aspects with the fact that I had a role to care for a group of people when I had people I was very close to who passed away suddenly and tragically.
That's right.
And I can't mourn. I cannot, because I've got to get up on stage and try to make some sense of this for this entire group of people. Yeah. And as an entertainer, there is that thing of like, you may have just heard some crazy news, or you may be dealing with something, or just got hit with a $8,000 tax bill or whatever it is. And yet, everyone in this room is dealing with things. Yeah. And for the next hour, my job is to help them get a little bit of freedom from this.
I'm going to tell you a secret. Yeah. there's a secret. This does not mean that I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I am better at it. And hopefully as I continue on, I will be better at it. But there's a reminder to me. Let's say you have a show at night.
Yeah.
And let's say XYZ happens during the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Get a flat tire.
Yeah.
The props, you discover one of your props broke.
Yeah.
Inside your case, you forget another prop. Let's just say that all that, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to go, oh my God. But all that has to do with, for us, is time.
Right.
It was by pure chance that those things happen to happen within that same day.
Right. Yeah.
Because all I then think about is, what if this happened? What if I got a flat tire on a day where I didn't have a show?
Right.
I'd go, I had a flat tire.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't mean anything. So I always look at issues and problems, or try to. And again, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I still fail. But to say this would be so vastly different if this happened 5 years ago and my flat tire happened next week.
Yeah.
So it really is about time.
Yeah.
It's just
it's
about
not
the fact.
thing.
It's not the thing. As human beings, we collect this in time.
Yeah.
And we go, oh my God,
Right.
all this happened. It's crazy this week. It's crazy this. And but that's just because it just happened to happen.
Right.
In that it's, as humans, we put it all together in a ball that we go,
Right.
I don't know if I can roll this big giant ball of crap down the street.
Yeah.
But the truth is that ball is all these tiny little things
Yep.
that just happen to happen at the same day. And yet they really mean nothing in the big scheme.
Yeah.
Because again, it's time.
Yep.
No one, it would be different if someone planned to flatten my tire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wait a second.
Yeah. If there was a snowball effect
Right.
of one thing leading to another, but if they're individual things, so in a weird way, we can sometimes learn, and this sounds insincere, but say with Ethan,
Yeah.
I was able to say, I know I'm going to process it.
Yep.
I can't process it now
Yep.
because I have this show that I have to open.
Yeah.
The same way as a surgeon goes in and says, all of my own personal stuff has to be outside the operating room because right now,
Right.
I have to make this guy, a heart transplant or whatever
Right.
the thing is. I obviously can't bring my crap in
Right.
with me. I should not be emotional in that respect.
Right.
I should be emotional with respect to what's happening in the moment,
Yep.
in the operating room or on stage or
Yep.
or whatever. So there are times when people can be like, oh, are they not feeling? Are they not? To me, the biggest mystery is the mourning process of things.
Yeah.
Where, people used to feel like if someone, if a husband died and the widow,
Right.
well, how dare she not wear black? It's like, well,
Yeah.
she's got her own.
It's her own thing.
It's her own thing.
It was her
But
husband.
everyone wants to put it into it. Patton Oswald, the whole thing of his
Yeah.
wife passing away,
Oh, yeah.
which is unbelievably tragic.
Right.
And a year later, he happened to
Right.
find a most wonderful woman
Incredible. Yeah.
who also had tragedy happen in her life. And they happened to connect.
And yet you have people who are like, how can you possibly?
Yeah. And, it is possible to have more than one thought in your brain.
Right.
He still found someone to connect with. It doesn't mean that he doesn't, care for his wife who passed away.
Right. And
Everyone, you'll always have that.
and everybody processes things differently too. I
So
know people who
differently.
in 20 years wouldn't be ready
Right.
for a new relationship,
Correct.
Because they don't do the work and they don't focus on themselves, what they
No.
need to focus on.
No,
But
and they're in denial. And there's
Yeah.
other people, like for me, I tend to be one that when someone passes away, I don't get sad.
yeah.
And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
But it's because if they truly meant something to me,
Yeah.
I will cry over the joy I had
Yeah.
of them being in my life and me being in their life.
Right.
I am more grateful
Yeah.
than sad that they passed.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was such an honor and a blessing that this person happened to be intertwined in my life
Right.
And that we're on the planet at the same time.
Because we couldn't have been. Like, I mean, we could have easily not have been.
Yeah. And so to me, it's a plus.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, oh my God, how wonderfully precious that was.
Yeah.
That happened. Because I know that everything's not going to live on forever.
Right.
So I'm more blessed by the fact that, this happened.
Yeah.
I got to have that.
I'm so glad you say that, because literally this week I was struggling with this idea that I feel like everybody feels like death is a failure.
Oh God, no.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, they blew it, or like they lost their battle. And it's like, well, what about all the life they lived?
Yeah.
What about that's what this should be about,
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it should be a celebration. It really should be.
Yeah.
I think that, the same with people that feel that, there may be their marriage and then they go, oh, we're not compatible.
Right.
And so we're going to go find somebody else. If they,
if that's the case, then
the
sooner the better.
My mother.
Yeah.
Until we're going on such wonderful, strange topics. And it was a generational thing, but it wasn't until I was 19 or 20 years old that I found out that my mother had been married before.
Wow.
And it was only because I was in the garage at my parents' house, cleaning the garage, and found old diaries. Yeah. And there was a picture of my mom with this other guy. And I'm reading in the diary, and I went to my dad and said,
who's this
was
guy?
Mom married before? And my dad, kind of did almost like a spit take, and then went, yeah, we told you about it.
you remember that.
And I'm like, I think my brother and I would have remembered.
Yeah.
And my mom was embarrassed by it because she thought she had failed at marriage. Oh. And then in talking about it, you found out the guy was an asshole.
Wow.
Right. And you found out that she at that time was strong enough to say, I deserve better. And she got out of it.
Which is such a great lesson for you guys to see.
Oh my gosh. But from her perspective, it was she wanted to apologize to us.
Wow.
And I had to teach her the lesson by going, Mom, you taught us to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah.
You were in an abusive, verbally, somewhat, I think, physical at times, abusive relationship, and you were strong enough to get out of it, as opposed to going, well, this is it. This is what it should be.
That's not a failure. That's a victory.
I said, and from that, you had this other wonderful family, and myself and my brother, and all this other, exciting stuff. That's not failure. That was you making a decision to decide that you deserve more.
Yeah.
And things. So I tend to applaud people in situations for being proactive.
Yeah.
Not being lazy, not being somebody that's like, I don't like this. I'm going to go something else.
Just
I'm not talking about those people. Those are crap ass people. Right. They really are. Right. It's easy to complain.
Yeah. It's
much harder to search and find the reasons to not complain.
Yeah.
And, that to me is the essence of like I enjoy my conversations with you, and I feel like we're really dear friends. And I swear to God, we've only probably met each other in a handful of times.
Oh yeah.
But you inspire me for the things that you do and the way that you look at life, and it kind of comes full circle, I guess.
Chipper.
In that regard.
We got pretty deep here.
I know. We're murder.
We're doing. We started with murder.
Let's just recap. Murder's bad.
Murder's bad. Death is not.
Death is not. No, but
it's kind of crazy here.
It's and by the way, let's use this again. We can get down on ourselves when we go out and we do a bad show. Speaking of death.
I've never had. Oh gosh, yeah.
But for me, early on, I used to get, kind of down on myself in my teens and my early 20s.
Right.
And then there comes a point where you go, oh, it's a process. It's a process.
Oh my gosh.
And so then you go, oh, okay. So what did I learn from this? This worked, this didn't. Okay, tweak. Let's try it for next time. And you go along. Now, I'm going to give you another big, not a big secret, but the pickpocket guy from way back.
Ricky Dunn?
Ricky Dunn.
Yeah.
Ricky Dunn was just the epitome of negative thinking that you can't even imagine.
Really?
And Ricky Dunn lived and died by validation of his act.
Like that night? Like if it was good that night,
if
he was
it was
happy
good that night, he was on cloud nine. He was the happiest he could ever be until just before the show the next night, in which he'd be just a basket case of nerves. And if the show didn't go well, we all were the brunt.
Wow.
You know, we got just hellfire from him because he hated himself. He hated
You're
life.
working with Ricky Dunn?
He hated all of that. Yeah. I'm old. I'm old.
I hate that you look younger than me. I said it. I blame years of church ministry for it. I've worked really hard to look this old.
No, trust me. I wake up in the morning and I remember how old I am. And then in the afternoon, I forget. And then by the evening, I literally forget how old I am. And then I wake up the next morning and I remember how old I am. It's that kind of thing.
I was at the castle last week and I was walking. There's so many stairs at the castle.
Yes.
And I've honestly never given any thought to it until the last week. I did 27 shows in the late parlor, and walking down those stairs at the end of the night, I was like, what's going on? Like, I've never thought about stairs this much. It's horrible. I'm shutting down. All right, Ricky Dunn. I want to hear.
So this was such an important lesson for me. And again, these are lessons they're not giving. They're lessons that if you open up to the people that you work with, you kind of glean that information off them. And I immediately was like, oh, I don't ever want to be like that. Because he only validated his entire life by how good or bad his last performance was. And which meant he was nothing without performing. He just, to me, performing should be this. You should have your own sense of self. Yeah. And then there's also you going out and performing. Yeah. And too many people get caught up in it. And I think that's where ego comes in. Yeah. Where, you kind of have to bolster yourself up. I'm very happy if tomorrow I never perform. Yeah. Just tomorrow, if it's done. If tomorrow's my last show. Yeah. I'm really happy about it because I'm excited about, going behind the scenes and either directing or writing or things like that. So Ricky was just miserable. And so there was a show that we did at Wizards up at Universal City Walk when it was happening. Remember Wizards. And up in the balcony was a who's who of magic for one show. The place was packed, but in the balcony was Mark Wilson and Nani. Yeah. Chuck Jones and his wife Jan. Wow. I'm trying to remember who else. My mom and dad. Okay, yeah. But it was literally like, this level of, from that time period, which was Ricky Dunn's time period. Yeah. And he goes out, doesn't have a great show. All right. Doesn't have a great show. Yeah. And afterwards, we're all mingling and stuff, and the whole group of us go out for drinks and dinner and after the show and stuff like that. Ricky literally stayed in his dressing room, locked the door, and waited till everyone left, and then he went to his car and drove home. Didn't say anything to anybody? And the next day, I come into the theater. I only do the show so I can be at the hang afterward. Yeah. So the next day, I go into the dressing rooms, and he's in his own dressing room with the door open. He goes, "Oh, Chipper, listen, I just want to apologize about last night. That show was so bad, I just couldn't show my face." And I just stopped and looked at him. And I said, "Don't take this the wrong way, but you're an idiot." And he looked at me stunned. And he goes, "What?" And I go, "Those are your friends. Yeah. You think they didn't have bad shows?" Yeah. Oh, for goodness sakes, you know. What are you doing? I go, and you're I don't know how much older he was, 30, 40 years older than me. Wow. But that was it. To him, that was live or die. How did you, it's beautiful to picture just being able to let go after a show. Because right now, I don't feel like I'm defined by how good my last show is, but I still struggle with the castle last week. Yeah. Night 2, Tuesday night, first show. Monday night, I'm working it out.
And I purposely, like at the castle, I always do new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I got 20, plus shows I can try out things. So Monday night was okay. It was all right. It was clunky. I didn't really mind it.
Right.
Tuesday, the first show, was probably my best show ever at the castle. It was, standing ovation, everything, all the jokes landed, all the tricks hit,
Right.
all the moves worked. And I walked out afterward and I was like, oh, crap. Now, like, every show after this for this week.
You're going to compare.
You know what I mean? How do I not do that, Chipper? Because
okay. First of all, again, with all this information, please understand that I do not follow it. I try to follow it. So because I don't want anyone to think like, he's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
I have nothing freaking figured out. I'm able to sometimes, tune into it properly. Right. I'm getting better at it the older I get. Let's put it that way. But first of all, we relate a story to you. Sir Lawrence Olivier goes out on stage and does Hamlet.
Okay.
And it's some theater, over in England. And it is amazing. This performance is mesmerizing.
Yeah.
The people are just, a pin could drop and every single person in the audience, hair is standing up on their arms. They just cannot believe this incredible performance by Sir Lawrence Olivier. And his buddy goes backstage, knocks on his room, and there's no answer. Knocks on the room again. There's no answer. He's like, Larry,
Yeah.
And finally comes in, and Sir Lawrence Olivier is sitting in front of his dressing room mirror, his head down in his hands, and he's frustrated and he's crying and he's angry. And his friend goes, "What's up with you?
Yeah.
That was amazing."
Yeah.
Like he says, I've seen you perform years doing that. That was the best performance I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And Sir Lawrence Olivier turns and goes, "Yeah. And I don't know how the fuck I did it."
Wow.
And that was the thing. So all he was thinking about is what you were thinking about is, oh, great, I got to do this tomorrow. And I'm going to know it's not as good as yesterday.
It's
again, here's the key. Time.
Yeah.
Your best show, does it matter if it was today, 2 weeks ago, or coming up in a year?
Yeah.
It really doesn't. If you look at the essence of time.
Yeah. Because
we all are going to have a career that kind of goes up and then kind of comes down.
Yeah.
Or kind of goes up and we stop. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or we don't know this. It's very weird. Can you imagine someone saying, imagine this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had such a fantastic show, with 2,000 people, standing ovation. It was absolutely fantastic. It happened last week. It was great. Can you imagine them going, oh my God, I had this fantastic show, 2,000 people, standing ovation. It happened last week. I really wish it had happened 2 weeks ago. We don't do that.
No.
Because we really don't. In our heads, when we go, oh my God, I just did this show. You had that show on Tuesday.
Yeah.
How would you have felt if that show was the last show you did for the week at the castle?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter if you look at the bigger picture.
Right.
No one's going to say, we saw you at the castle, and out of the 7 days, Tuesday, like no one's going to say, no one's going to pinpoint things. We only do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And the truth is you cannot replicate that because those same people will not be there on Wednesday. They won't be there on Thursday. And here it gets even better.
Yeah.
Those people that were in the audience that day that loved you.
Yeah.
You don't know what their day was like leading up to the night they went to the castle.
Right.
You don't know their demographic. You don't know where they come from. You don't know if they have money. You don't know if it was a wonderful day and their kid got A's in school. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The very next day, you don't know if the weather was bad. It was raining. You don't know if their kids got F's in
You don't
school.
know the timing of their alcohol at the castle.
Exactly. So when we look at it, we tend to look at it with an ego and say, you know what? It was my show. I got a standing ovation. No, you had a really good show,
Right.
but you happened to be in front of an audience that they were ready to give people a standing ovation. They were ready to be entertained. They were not jaded. They were not. So you really don't have control over that. So the more you realize you don't have control over that, the more you can sit back and go, I know what I brought to it.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that.
Gosh, that's so challenging to me because I feel like in the past year, it was because I did the castle about the same time last year.
Yeah.
And here's what happened that time. Since you asked. No, through that week, I remember it was like the third night of the run, and I had been having fun, and I had just told myself, I'm just gonna have fun. Just screw it. I'm just gonna have fun.
Right.
Like I'm performing in a place I just dreamed of when I was a kid. 8-year-old Taylor, you're here, have fun, right?
Yeah.
And it was the second show on a Wednesday night, and all of a sudden, a show I had just done 11 times, I just got this immense fear as they're introducing me. I'm backstage in the parlor, just this overwhelming sense of fear. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Where did this? I just did this.
Yeah.
And the way I got through it is I just told myself, if I go out there and do the best show I've ever done, it's not going to matter. And if I do the worst show I've ever done, it's not going to matter. I'm going to keep doing shows. Some will be great. Some will be bad. So since then, I've been a lot better when things go to crap. When the show is just shitty and the audience doesn't like me or whatever, I'm okay with it. I still struggle. That's that Lawrence thing. When the show goes great, that's when I go home and go, well, why did that work?
Right.
Why was that? How do I do that every time?
There's two things that just so listeners or a listener.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are listening.
There's 4.
Okay. No. There's two things kind of that we have to say about this. Number one, the quality of the performer. We're talking we're assuming there's already a really good show.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's different if it's someone struggling and it's not, you know, but if you have a show that you know has been already firing on all cylinders,
right,
and then you have a bad show or a good show, that's what we're talking about in this regard. Not talking about the X amount of years to get to that point, and not talking about the shows where the audience fully loves the show, but you know in your heart it's not a good show.
Yeah.
And you're still tweaking it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And then the other thing is I still overanalyze routines and jokes and bits within my show, every single show. Okay. Because I want them to be the best they can be. And if I find a little thing to tweak here and there, I'm like, I get so excited.
Do you take notes following your show, or do you record audio? Like, how do you, when those golden bits happen, or when that thing comes up that was improvised and you go, that could actually add to the routine every time. How do you,
I'm all over the place.
Okay.
Very often I don't take notes these days.
Yeah.
If it's a new routine, then absolutely I record. So for instance, I have my workout places, and my workout places are the loft. Yep. Right. Because it's an intimate room.
It's a great room.
And I know that I can plug in material because I'm doing about an hour 20 in there. I know I can throw in a new routine and tweak it. And that's where I developed a lot, like the dartboard routine. Yeah. Got developed there. Comedy and Magic Club. Yeah. I just finished this literally yesterday. Okay. Yeah. And I used it for tweaking routines. You know, that's where I'm doing that. And I think that's important. There's a lot of places we don't have anymore to be able to do those. Right. Used to be, there were tons and tons of comedy clubs. You could go work in places. Yeah. And so, you know, that's why I applaud you for either creating or finding the ones like the ones at Nerd Melt, which is now gone, you know, which I loved. I did a couple shows there too over the years. Oh man. And you need those places. Yeah. You really do, because the only way to know something is to put it up in front of an audience. Right. And that's the other thing. I think people can go, oh, it's not ready. It's not ready. If you have the bare bones of it, and you can do it in your, you know, living room, right, and you can get from point A to point B, go throw it up on a stage somewhere. because I can't afford to throw it up on a stage for a corporate.
Right.
Because they want me to,
you don't want to risk it.
me to bat, just hit that ball out of the park.
Yep.
I can't do it for Performing Arts Center because they're paying really good money.
Yep.
For
polished theatrical show.
A theatrical show.
Yep.
And so everything has to be workshopped elsewhere.
So my new idea to lose money on. I love it. I'll be at like some like fancy 5-star resort, and that's going to pay my mortgage, and all I can do is dream about performing in the back of a comic book store.
You've mentioned that so many times.
I'd say a lot, man.
But here's why because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
The one is an actual gig and a job, and sometimes it's fantastic and you love it, and sometimes you're like, okay, I'm working for it.
Yeah.
Which is every job, every industry out there, every career you could have goes through the exact same things. So, when we have a place to go, like you said, the comic book store that has a theater in the back, you know that you have nothing to lose because it's literally for fun.
There's so low stakes. Yeah, it's just for fun. So the idea I want to do is I want to do an all new material show. So the idea is it's a booked show with like 10 to 12 working comics, magicians, entertainers. But the only rule is the material has to be like 4 to 6 weeks old. You have to do stuff that you're trying out. So I think it'd be fun.
I would do it.
I think it'd be so fun to do.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
If it was like, come see some of LA's best entertainers do their worst stuff, or like, like the new stuff.
I mean, and that's the thing when you watch people, again, like Seinfeld and back in the day, Gary Shandling and others, they would go work out at places like Comedy and Magic Club.
Right.
And they would be honest with the audience. They'd come out and they go, hey, I'm working on some new stuff. Here we go. Yep. And then it becomes almost a joke on a joke when the joke dies.
Yeah.
And, trying to figure that part out.
Yeah.
You have to have places to be bad.
Yeah.
You have to. There's no other way around it. You have to have places to be bad.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Comedy and Magic, I feel like, Comedy and Magic Club, I feel like when I've gone there and watched shows, the comics are like, they're doing their best stuff. Most of them, like they're trying. And then if you go to the Comedy Store, I feel like a lot of guys are just working out stuff and you never know what it's going to be.
The reason I love the Comedy Magic Club is, first of all, I had been working there since 91.
Wow.
91, which tells you I'm old.
Started when he was 3 years old.
Yeah. But it took me 5 years to get into that club.
It's
5 years. And that's the thing is a lot of people that work over at the other clubs of the Improv and Laugh Factories and stuff oftentimes cannot get into the Comedy Magic Club. There is such a high level of professionalism there that no one understands. And because of that, that's why the caliber is there. That's why great. I was able to hang out with, I idolized Gary Shandling.
Right.
And I got to help, like he was working on material and I got to actually pitch in and go, have you thought about this angle and stuff? And he'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. And Paul Reiser and, here's the coolest part. This is so ridiculous. I'm having dinner in the club before a show with Jerry Seinfeld.
That green room is magic.
It is.
It feels magical.
Jerry Seinfeld, Gary Shandling, and myself. The three of us are having dinner. And so I'm sitting there going, this is unreal.
Right. Is this real life?
But this is the coolest thing. You think they've made it.
Right.
Right. And they both are, like Gary Shandling at the time was going, I don't know. I was thinking of like doing a tour, but I don't know if I'd even sell tickets.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. And then you have Seinfeld saying, Gary, you're nuts. You should do it.
Yeah.
And Gary's like, I don't know if this material's strong enough. It just doesn't feel like it. And then later on, Jerry is talking about some new material that he was unsure of. We're all, whether you're amateur to professional, we are all worried about the new stuff we're working on.
Yeah.
And then we're also worried if our old stuff is still relevant.
Right.
We all are doing it.
Yeah.
And there are topical jokes, that go along. And then suddenly the culture changes.
Right.
And you realize that joke really doesn't apply as much as it doesn't have the biting edginess that it once had. Oh, I got to get rid of it.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm going to replace it. Okay, now what's going to work for the next so many years?
Right.
And we're not even talking about, topical jokes of something on the news within the last day or week.
Right.
But there's those jokes as well that you write and you go, oh my God, this is brilliant. Unfortunately, it has a shelf life of 3 days.
And it's so sad when performers don't realize that. Like, I mean, you see guys who are working, but then you see comics who are still talking about kids in their baggy jeans. And it's like, what kids are you talking about?
I'm going to give you a pet peeve of mine when it comes to magic.
Yes. Okay. We're gonna do 2 episodes of this. We're gonna have to, because we're like an hour and 15. I haven't even asked you any questions about your life and all, and we haven't shit on magic, which is going to be a big part of this.
That'll be episode 2.
Episode 2.
All right, so we should save it for that.
I want to hear your pet peeve. There's plenty we can talk about. I love magic so much, I eventually want to work myself out of it. Go ahead, Chipper.
Okay. This is just in regards to what we were talking about. My pet peeve is someone coming up with an act or even more than an act, a show that they came up with maybe at age 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
And it works for them. And they're doing the exact same material now in their 30s and 40s. And here's why I don't like it. My feeling is that when they put together their show at age 17, 18, 19, they, of course, were doing it from the perspective of being a 17, 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost asinine to be doing that same material at age 25, age 30, age 35, 40, 45. Because you have all these other life experiences that should weave their way into what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you go out there and directly say, hey, listen, now I'm married and now I have 2 kids. But you do have the maturity to look at your material and say, would I still be doing this at age 30?
Right.
I'm now in my 30s. Not me, but I mean, because I'm much older than that. But for someone to say, okay, I'm in my 30s and I really came up with this at age 18.
Yeah.
What can I change on those routines that reflect who I am, and what I believe, and what's my point of view at this age? That's missing from magic. Is a sense of perspective, purpose, and opinion of who we are, and our experiences, our collective experiences. To produce this, good stand-up comedians are looking at the world from their age and their demographic and their point of view, at wherever they are. They're not looking at it doing jokes about being age 15.
Some of that could be because with stand-ups, there is a huge conversation always about what's your point of view, what's your character, who are you on stage, and everything you write should reflect that or come out of that. And in magic, it's what's the cool new trick, and how can I figure out a way to do this cool new trick?
Every magic trick for sale is removing you from the experience. I'll tell you right there. That's it in a nutshell. Every magic trick that you can go buy, directly or indirectly, whether it's subconscious or not, is removing you from the equation. Because now it's about the trick. And as you know, it's the same with comedians where someone says, oh my God, that guy told really funny jokes. As opposed to, oh my God, that guy was really funny. Funny means that the guy was funny. Funny jokes means that it's about the jokes and not the person. Magicians do the same. Oh my God, he did the so-and-so trick. Not, oh my God, he fooled me. He amazed me. He made me laugh. And that gets removed. In the last couple of years, I've started doing my workshops, lectures on comedy and writing comedy for variety shows, for magic shows, for acts, things like that. And I'll do consulting on the side, which is fun for me because I've been directing as well as, like Steve Valentine's show and others. Which we'll get into. But right from the beginning, the very first thing, when I'm talking to people is, what is your opinion of things? What is what do you believe in that you have very strong opinions of? And that should be in your magic. I know it sounds weird, but it should be. And beautiful case in point, Michael Finney doing, again, this is for Magic Geekdom,
Right.
but Michael Finney doing a 6-card repeat.
Right.
It's one of my favorites. And the reason is it's only because of his attitude.
Right.
And his attitude is getting angry at the audience for not liking the trick, for not applauding it enough.
Yep.
And by the time, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I throw away 1, 2, 3, right? And going through it. And there comes a point, and I'm going to paraphrase. There comes a point where the audience isn't reacting, and he says, and now he's done it 4 or 5 times, and he goes, and I throw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards into a goddamn dead audience, and and the audience rolls because he's living in the moment of the interaction of him and the audience, and he's giving his perspective, which is he doesn't like that he's not selling the routine.
Right.
And it's beautifully done because we know more about him than the trick.
Yeah.
And now it's not about the trick. It's all about Michael Finney. Yeah. And it's hilarious. The same way with, everybody out there from Jeff Hobson to even Matt King and others. If you listen and watch their shows, they have a very different, finite opinion of the routine they're doing. Of how it's conveying, of what their opinion is of the audience members they have up on stage. Right. It's not one size fits all.
And this is where I've become too much of a gripe on marketed magic effects. But here's the danger is that I see young guys, and I work with a lot of the junior guys at the castle and their acts, and what I see sometimes is people look schizophrenic on stage because when they perform the 6-card repeat, they're Michael Finney. And when they perform the cut and restored rope, they're Hobson. And when they, you know what I'm saying? Like, because no fault of creators who are like, hey, I've worked on this for 30 years. Here's my handling on the egg bag. But don't do Hobson's jokes and his persona when you're doing that and then be this other thing over here.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that comes from the fact that, number one, they're young. Yeah. And it's the same I'm going to give another perspective, dance. It's in dance. Yeah. You will see young choreographers that choreograph routines based on the fact that they love Twyla Tharp. Okay. That they love, that they have their own people and it takes them a while to then find their own voice. Yeah. Same with dancers. Dancers will go and just dance. Right. And you can look back and go, oh, I was kind of mimicking so-and-so. Yeah. And it's not till they start getting their own sense of self. Yep. And the same with magicians. Magicians, it happens a lot more frequent because you go and you get the trick. Right. And the trick is, before
tried and true, tested performance.
I would love for there to be someone that's, you almost have to get Zen in this regard. Yeah. I would love for someone to say, before I hand you a trick, we're going to spend the next 2 years finding everything we can about you. Yeah. And this is what you do in acting class. Yep. Before they even get to doing monologues and stuff, they're doing breathing exercises. They're trying to get people to find themselves. It's very much going and sitting on, a psychiatrist's couch.
Yeah. Oh, it's therapeutic.
It's therapeutic. And you find out all your quirks and foibles and things like that. And in conjunction with opinion is magnify your own faults and quirks. Yes. And people don't do that. No. They want to be super powerful. They want to be all great. And it's like, that's not interesting. Right. Look at any script and 9 times out of 10, the villain is the more interesting thing in the script, movie script, TV. And very often actors will say, I don't want to play the hero. I want to play the villain. That looks fun. Yeah. And the reason is because there's a definite point of view. Yes. A hero is just going to save people. That's not really a point of view. Mm-hmm. I'm going to save. Well, everyone wants to save people. Right, right. It doesn't mean much. I like when I make mistakes on stage. I like when I am self-deprecating. Yep. I like that. The people find out more about me. Yeah. That way, and then if I'm doing a magic trick, that's secondary. Yeah. I want to be, I've heard you talk about this on the podcast and and we've talked about it in person, but I'm a firm believer in don't go to the trunk. So I have my prop trunk on stage.
Yeah.
For fun, I don't go to the trunk for the longest period of time because all it is me on stage. It's me joking, improvising, ad-libbing, connecting with the audience because I can get to the good stuff in the trunk.
Right.
But I'm not going to run to it.
Right.
I want that to be extra added bonus.
Yeah.
And then when I go to that, the audience goes, holy crap, now there's this as well.
Right.
You know?
Oh, it's so good.
And young magicians and anyone starting out need to do that.
Yeah.
Same with stand-up comics, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't go out and go, and I'm going to get them with this opening line and go out there and just be yourself. And don't be like, you know, hey, everybody.
Yeah.
But go out there and go, how you guys doing? Did you have a good night? Yeah. It's great to see you. And you call it what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we got a small house tonight, but you guys seem fun and, you know, we're going to have some laughs and you just talk, just converse.
Yeah.
Get into a sense of there's a conversation taking place between you and the audience, even though the audience isn't replying necessarily.
Right.
But get into that mode. Now, if I'm in work mode, you know me, I run out on stage and like, you know, come on, hey.
Yeah.
And I'm getting them going. I'm educating them and priming them for the show, but that's a whole nother thing. This is just about getting people, performers, very comfortable in their own skin on stage.
Yeah. Which is probably the number one issue that we all have is trying to just, it's very unnatural what we're doing. The fact of like, we're going to stand on a stage, everyone's going to look at us. It's an unnatural thing. And so to be in that environment and to be yourself, Katie earlier this year, gosh, 25 years I've been doing magic. 25 years since I was a kid, been really focused on making something out of it.
Yeah.
And just this year, Katie said, you're a storyteller. Why aren't you telling more stories? And it's the best thing I've done, Chipper. And I've only been doing it for a year and I'm not an expert at it, but now that's my thing is like, how can I tell a story and how can I be a magician that creates wonder without lying to people?
Oh, yeah.
You know, being honest and not telling a story that's not mine.
I am horrible at telling jokes. I'm horrible at it.
Right now, everyone's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm talking about, you know, a guy walks into a bar and blah, 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 you know, long, shaggy story jokes, things like that. Yeah. I'm horrible at it. I'm awful at it. I'm better in a situation of being in the moment, improvising. Yeah. I have my jokes within my routines. Yeah. But for me, I come from situational comedy. And that's a whole nother aspect we can talk about is if magicians want to learn, watch sitcoms, watch stage plays, because we are telling a story within it in the moment. We're not telling about somebody else. Right. We're in an actual plot line that's taking place, you know, and I don't think magicians realize that. No. I think their whole thing is, you know, there's a definite plot of someone's taken a dollar bill. You've written a signature on it. It disappears. Yeah. Oh my God, where is it? Oh, wait, it's found over here. That's a plot. Right. That's a sitcom. So it's ridiculous to do. This is okay. Don't borrow this is my other gripe. Don't go to Captain Whiz Bang's joke book and say, I'm doing money routine, so I'm going to look up all the money jokes, and now I'm going to say them all in sequential order, and then once I am done with that, I'm now going to do jokes about magic markers, because I have a magic marker in my hand, and then I'm, you know, that's
careful, it's a Sharpie.
Yeah, you know, all of that, you know, it's a felt marker. Didn't you feel it? You know, all those things, right? Those are the things you have to get rid of because they're not telling anything about anybody on stage, and it's not helping the plot. Right. The plot is what you're looking at. It's distracting from the plot. Right. So if you take $100 bill from someone in the audience and you say, well, I'm going to show you how you can double your money, and then you fold it in half, you know, that lame joke. Yep. And I'm sorry, but it's freaking lame. Yeah. That is just, what is that telling? Does that tell anything except for you're a bit of an ass? Yeah. And it's here's the real thing. Yeah. You are putting a joke in where the biggest elephant in the room is this guy is worried about $100. Yeah. Now let's continue that. Yeah. Did he just have $100? No, he earned it.
Yeah.
What kind of job did he have that he can have $100 in his pocket?
Right.
There's so much to mine from.
Yep.
And also to realize the tension. You want to build this tension.
You want to build tension and
Oh my
make the
God,
audience care.
You want to make them care. You know, so now what happens with that $100?
Right.
And to be flippant about it is the wrong approach, because you have asked someone for $100 loan.
Right. Yeah.
Who else gives $100 to anybody?
Yeah.
Wondering if they're going to get it back. Of course the guy's worried.
Yeah.
And the guy's on stage. Can you imagine his wife in the audience also being worried?
Right.
What do you do for a living? Now you find out that he works at a, let's say McDonald's.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you don't poke fun at that.
Right.
But you have to know that someone that works at McDonald's and he's got $100, that means an unbelievable amount.
Right.
Now, if you
As
get
opposed
some
to a
guy
CEO of
exactly,
X
you know, what do you do for a living? Oh, my company manufactures yachts.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and you know, and then that's when I usually take this and says, oh, well, thank you for letting me use some of your toilet paper, you know, as I hold the dollar bill up in the air. And that gets a laugh because now it's obvious.
Right.
It's also going to be obvious that he's not going to care as much about the 100. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now the angle on the story, right. So now the story evolves about him not caring about it.
Right. And that's where the humor comes from. And that's where
right. So that routine, in my eyes, can be so different every time you perform it because it's based upon all these other factors.
Oh, that's so good.
So when you see me perform stuff, for instance, when I'm doing the RKO radio helmet routine, and the whole premise of it is science.
Yeah.
Right. And I bring someone up and I say, you know, hey, do you like science?
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, I love it. And then I do a whole thing about that. Now the whole thing is about this is a science experiment. If I get someone up that says he doesn't like it, now the whole joke is the fact that he doesn't like to be part of this science experiment.
Yeah.
If I get someone up that, especially from the South, where sometimes science is looked on as a bad thing, which is so bizarre.
I don't believe in science.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, they're out there. And I'll work performing arts centers where I bring someone up and I say, hey, do you like science? And they go, oh, God, no. And they're serious. And then I say, then I change it immediately. And I say, no, I mean like science school projects, fun experiments, things like that back in junior high, high school. And they go, great. Yeah, I like that.
You're creating buy-in.
Exactly. So now I'm explaining the whole routine as this is something I came up with in junior high to win the science fair. I've changed the entire parameter of it, and it's all the jokes still work, but it's within this regard because this person now accept it as, oh, you mean like, yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah.
The science fair at school, which means nothing. You know, here's my science experiment on water runs downhill.
Yep.
You know, the dumbest things like that. So my whole thing is, again, coming from improv is if I can tailor it to what this guy is about. Now here's the other flip side of that. You've seen the routine. I mean, I'm hooking a guy up with jumper cables and everything else. It can look like a torture device. So guess what happens when I bring someone up and I say, you know, what do you do? And they say, oh, I'm in the military and I just got back from Iraq. Right?
Yeah.
And news and everything is talking about terrorists and people being hooked up to car batteries and things. Immediately, I changed the whole idea of it. Now I explain that the helmet was something I bought at IKEA.
Yeah.
And that gets a laugh. And I said, you know, I go, yeah, it was supposed to be a coffee table. That's all, you know.
Wow.
You know, like I've created it. And when I assembled it, it became that instead of a coffee table.
Yeah.
You know, and now it looks like it's nothing. It's so non-threatening. It is
Gosh, Chipper.
And so you got to run with those. And that's what I'm getting at when you get to these plots where people forget that there's a major plot that all the jokes are literally there for the taking once you have and realize that you're in the middle.
Audiences
but realize you have a plot line.
Yeah.
Here's the plot. A fireman is on stage with me and he gave me $100.
Yeah.
That's the plot. magicians will tend to think that the plot is $100 gets signed, it disappears, it reappears in the lemon.
Right.
That's not the plot.
Yeah.
You're forgetting about the guy on stage. You're forgetting about what he does for a living. You're forgetting about how he is on stage. Is he happy, excited, nervous?
Yep.
You're forgetting about the people that he's with.
Yeah.
You're forgetting that here during that show in the audience earlier, you found out that 20 of them is part of a group, and guess what? They all work for the mint.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to change your plot.
Yeah.
That's going to change your plot entirely.
See, this all goes back to improv and learning that every bit of information you get is a gift.
Is a total
using
gift.
That.
Unbelievable gift.
Every magician should go take an improv class.
They should take an acting class, a dance class, a movement class, an improv class, a writing class, and then
go back.
Then go and start looking at tricks and creating tricks.
Yeah.
And stuff. But they don't. No. They all want it quick, easy, fast.
Right.
And what they're not understanding is that when you go quick, easy, fast, every other magician out there is also doing quick, easy, fast.
Right.
It's the same as get rich quick.
Yep.
Dial this number. We're going to send you this kit. And you go, yes, I'm going to. Well, no, you're doing it along with millions of others.
Right.
And if it was so great, why is this guy selling a kit to get rich quick? This is how you get rich quick. Sell a kit that you'll get rich quick.
That's a whole nother thing in the art of magic is guys who make their living off selling things to other magicians.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there's some legitimate, wonderful stuff out there. But again, you and I tend to look at those as tools in the toolkit. Yep. And not the trick itself. Yeah. I have had, I'll tell you this, I've taken tricks where I've bought the trick because I respect the performer who created it. Yep. And it's only because I wanted 3% of that trick. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't want the rest of the trick. There was one little thing in there that I thought was golden because, number one, I don't ever want to be caught doing a standard trick. Right.
I talked to Chris Mitchell the other day. I bought his long distance card trick because that bucket on the pole solved one problem in my show.
Right. For something else.
And I'm like, I'm not going to just go buy a bucket on a pole. I'm going to.
That's right.
Support him for creating it.
And that's the other part of it is the ethics side of it. Yep. Boy, there's so many things we can get into. I know. I've had the, I've had the situation of being on a cruise ship and looking at emails and from people going, one of your routines is being, I don't want to get into details. Yeah. But one of your routines is being offered up by,
for sale. XYZ. Yeah. No, I remember. I remember that instance.
And the only way to combat it was to let the person who was doing it know that not only had I been doing that routine for 20 years, right, but here's everyone out there that has worked with me and knows about it. Right. And everyone, I mean, again, I just won't name names, but well-known magicians and people in the business and producers and stuff all came forward going, yeah, that's Chipper's routine. What the hell? Right. And that's the way it got closed down.
Yep. And you have to guard that stuff.
You have to. It's our life. Yeah. It's our life. We put our blood, sweat into it. And, all I think about it is that pays my mortgage. Right. That puts food on the table for my kid. Right. And, for someone to come along going, well, it's different because I painted it blue instead of, orange or whatever the lame excuse is. And it's like, no, you know what you're doing. Yep.
It's, oh gosh, we've got so much more to talk about.
All right.
It's also lunchtime.
Oh, let's go eat.
Can we do 2 of these?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to take a break right now, guys. You're going to have to wait. So if you're listening right now, it's going to be a quick lunch for us. You'll have to tune in next week.
Next week. Should we do teasers?
Yeah. What are we going to talk about in the next week? I want to talk about you growing up in the circus.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of that.
A little bit of that?
Yeah.
I want to talk about your doing production for other guys and directing. You did Steve Valentine's show, which I caught the version of it he did at the Castle, which was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my God, so much fun.
I want to talk about that.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about direction, but also we'll get into more nitty gritty for people on the nuts and bolts. Yeah. If you will, in regards to this business, which is nuts.
It is nuts. It is nuts.
But it's fun nuts.
It's so good.
I mean, I check in with myself every couple of weeks and say, all right, if I die tomorrow, right, And I go, yep, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm like really good.
Yeah.
And I don't mean good as in me being good. I mean,
Right.
I mean like I feel like I've had a fulfilling life, you know, and
So
I
that's what you hope for, right? That's what you
hope
want.
for.
You want someday to know that you did the thing you were
filled
supposed to do.
with, you know, ups and downs and highs and lows and horrible mistakes and gifts where it just, you know, serendipity stuff just kind of happens.
Yep.
And hard work, and then, you know, and then work where you don't work hard.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I'm an idiot. I should have worked hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's all of that. And that's all you can hope for.
Oh yeah.
You know,
and it's different every day.
That's the biggest thing.
And fun, goofy things that happen. We should probably do some of those too. Some silly stories. I'm glad we talked about this at the end of this, because as we're walking to lunch, if we were to tragically die, you and I, we'll have this for posterity.
Can't we happy die?
Yeah, we're going to happy die.
Yeah.
We're going to just picture us skipping across the street,
Yeah.
eating ice cream.
But what's tragic? I mean,
Oh, yeah. I guess tragic. I don't know.
tragic is implying that there's an opposite. That's why I always laugh.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, and they tragically died. It's like,
Yeah. Oh, like,
wow.
what's the comedic way to die?
Yeah. It's like, thank you and good night. And, you know, to be honest, I always had that morbid thought of you know, literally just sitting down on the stage and dying on the stage, you know, because the people that I admired, who did that, you know, just by pure accident, you know, there was Dick Shawn who passed away. He was literally on stage in the middle of a show and passed away right
Just
there.
passed.
The great English magician, prop guy from way back when, Tommy Cooper.
Really?
Tommy Cooper
I didn't know that.
is doing a show, and at one point he sits down in a chair and he slumps forward a little bit, and the audience is rolling because they think it's a bit, and he's there even longer. And now they're laughing even longer because they think, oh my God, he's like really selling
He's
this.
really committed to this.
And I think it was either his son or someone backstage that realized, like, that's not how the bit goes. And he had passed away in the most happiest, wonderful moment with an audience enjoying his show. And it was just like, you know, the epitome
that's so cool.
of just perfectly buttoning an amazing career in comedy magic. You know,
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we look at those things just far too tragic.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, we're all going to do it anyway.
Right. 100% of us.
Yeah, it's not been 99 yet. It's not been 99%. No one has found this.
Right.
You know, we've
Magic
either
formula.
figured out way. I mean, we certainly have figured out ways to live longer.
That's true.
You know, and that's the other thing that we can talk about, because I'm always amazed by history. You know, where you're like, oh my God, these amazing, like the fact that our founding fathers, I just always assumed they were in their 60s, 70s, 80s,
No.
and that they knew so much. You know, and you're like, no, they're in their 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s,
Right?
And you know, it's like, oh, they knew nothing.
Nothing.
They knew nothing.
Yeah.
And we hold, you know, the documents they created so sacred that I
Right.
crack up. I'm like,
Well, and let's not forget that our country is like 3 grandparents old.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
like 3 80-year-olds back to back. That's the existence of our country.
Let's also not forget that they wrote this on a piece of paper where it just happened to fit the paper. What if they wrote the Declaration of Independence and someone said, listen, I just made some paper. It's not very good. Well, how big is it? About the size of my hand. And so then they write, you know, we the people, let's all just be happy. And then they're like, where are we going to sign it?
Yeah. Oh, we
And
need
someone goes, initials? You know, and like people don't think about that. Like they honestly think like someone went, this will be the paper.
This
and
is
this
the
will be the
page."
pen. No, someone said, you got a pen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone looked at John Hancock
Yeah.
and said, what a bastard taking up all
Yeah.
that room.
Took up
You know,
all
when you're in
the
a comedy club and you sign the wall in the back green room, right?
And there's Valentino's name is huge.
There's always some comic that takes up like 5 feet of space, and all the other comics, including myself, go, what a shit.
Yeah, they draw wieners on it for the
Yeah,
rest
you
of
know, and stuff. You know, Johnny Hancock was that guy
He was.
where you know that the people looking at it was like
John
everyone
Hancock
else.
was a douchey comic.
He was a cock. Everyone signs really nicely everywhere
Right.
else,
And
you
he's
know,
just
and John
swoopy.
Hancock's like, okay, whatever. Really? Did you not, did you not read the room?
They literally use my name to refer to signatures the rest of my
That's right. Yeah, put your Johnny Hancock. Because we could have.
Right.
Anyone else on that piece of paper,
Right.
we could have said,
At least we know, Chipper, that we cannot change amendments.
Yes. This country, we can get into this as well, but this country has no understanding of how things progress and evolve.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
Obamacare. Yeah. Of course it's going to be bad, because you want to know why? It never existed before. And yet everyone thinks that they can go like, oh, we just take the template from Canada.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And by the way, if Canada tried to do our system
Right.
of health, they couldn't do it because it wouldn't work for them.
No.
It's all new.
Right.
And people don't get that. If you work a regular job, you
Yeah.
honestly think everything is laid out for you. And unfortunately, there are jobs like that.
Yeah.
You get the policy handbook.
Right.
And you say, and this is how this is done.
This is how we do
and this
this.
is how the reports are done. And we have our quarterly meetings.
Yep.
And please use these colors in your charts
Yeah.
for this.
Yep.
And they should be this size because it's in the policy handbook.
Right.
We are in a creative environment. We know there are no rules.
Right.
And yet we often are trapped by rules.
Yeah.
And you almost need to be hit in the head to go, dude, there's no rules.
Right.
Remember that crazy idea that you thought up in the middle of the night and you laughed your ass off?
Yeah.
You can do it on stage.
Yeah.
Where a lot of magicians would go, no, what if? What if it doesn't work?
Right.
It's like, oh my God, really? Really take the chance, make the leap.
Yes.
It's so much more fun. And you know what? It's also just as fun when it fails, because you're failing in this beautiful hot air balloon that's on fire,
it's
plummeting
glorious.
to the
Yeah.
ground.
You're like-
How could you not look at it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the Hindenburg. It
Oh
was
my
horrible
gosh.
and tragic. And yet everyone looks at the footage of it and they can't turn
Right.
away.
You can't stop. Some of my favorite moments in shows that I've watched. We were doing our Jokers and Aces at Nerd Melt.
Yeah.
And Quincy Jones, the comedian,
Yes.
hilarious. This guy he opened with a premise of who here smokes weed, and he could not find anybody who smoked weed. And then his whole routine just was about like, you're joking me. We're in Los Angeles. None of you have ever, who has ever, nobody. And he's just going off. And finally he's just like, that's it. He walked out through the audience, out the back door, and just left. And that is one of my favorite performances ever. Like, that was just the end of the show. It was just like, this is beautiful. Like,
But
it wasn't what was planned.
It wasn't what was planned. But again, here's the beauty of what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
He did not say, oh, well, anyway, here's my routine.
Right.
He looked at the room
Yeah.
and wanted a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what magicians forget. There's a conversation taking place.
Right.
And here it is. He has something to say about weed. No
Right.
one smokes weed.
Yeah.
It's very inauthentic
Yep.
for him to say, well, let me tell you about weed.
Right.
And go into it as if it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Instead, it mattered.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's these golden moments.
It's so fun.
Yeah. That's great. I'm hungry.
Let's go do it.
Let's go do
I
it.
like how we tried to end and then we went back into it.
It happens.
All right, guys, we'll come back.
All right.
There you have it, folks. Part 1 of our conversation with Chipper Lowell. Tune in next week as we continue talking with Chipper and we go even longer. We talk about more great stuff. It's so stinking good. I can't wait to share it with you. And thank you to all the producers for making this possible. If you'd like to help us produce this show, you can do so for as little as $1 a month. That's right. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a producer of the podcast, get some exclusive content only available to producers on our Patreon page. For more information on that, go to patreon.com/abouttobreak or go to abouttobreakpodcast.com. Click on the Become a Producer button, and you too can become a producer of these shows.